down.
And good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
And I'm Joan Lennon.
This week, Glory Days profiles Lynn St. James and talks with her about her record run.
There are destructive forces at work in your engine. Heat and friction. But there is a way to fight back. Pennzoil Premium Quality Motor Oil. Pennzoil defines performance.
Nice to see you, Tom.
Thank you.
And Good Morning America continues in just a moment after this from Whiskas.
Like this.
Games to 2.
It is 16.
This is CNN International. CNN International gives you more than breaking news. When we investigate a story, we dig deep, revealing the dark side of Japan's notorious underworld, Eastern Europe's hopes and fears, the world's ever-changing social climate. Our seasoned reporters take you beneath the surface with thought-provoking stories from CNN's Special Reports Unit, hard-hitting investigations from CNN's Special Assignment, and in-depth science and medical features. Whether it's uncovering the misuse of American international aid or exploring cracks in Poland's economic and political structure, our reports go beyond the headlines to bring you timely, comprehensive coverage of the issues affecting the global community. So for in-depth reporting that tells the whole story and nothing less, turn to CNN International.
CNN Headline News, I'm Lynn Braun. The candidates in the race for U.S. President take center stage tonight in Atlanta. Vice President Dan Quayle left Washington this morning for his showdown with Al Gore and retired Admiral James Stockdale. Gore, running mate of Democrat Bill Clinton in Atlanta.
$1 in career prize money. The third-seeded Becker won his second-round match at the Seiko Indoor.
Started 1981.
The Blue Jays' lead was cut to 3.
The response to the show has been great. It seems people are glad to finally see a program where women talk about something besides their sex lives in the latest Hollywood gossip. After all, we have opinions on more important issues and how they affect us. That's what Cryer and Company is all about. Thought-provoking, intelligent discussion. It's about time the world heard what we have to say.
Cryer and Company, a different perspective. Weekdays on CNN International.
Stay with CNN International for comprehensive global news coverage throughout the day on World News. Weekdays at 0600 and 0700 Buenos Aires time, join Brian Nelson and Joey Chen for a look at the news that reflects your region of the world.
18 people have been killed in floods in southern Brazil.
So for in-depth, timely information on international business, sports, weather, and the latest breaking news, watch World News throughout the day on CNN International.
These are some of the major stories we're following on World News. The death toll from Monday's earthquake in Egypt now stands at more.
You're going to kill jobs. John, just let me finish. By cutting defense
just let me finish, John.
You wouldn't have passed anything this time if the president had put you on record.
We certainly would have.
For 3 years, you guys did nothing. Wait, it's the Democrats' fault? Could have fooled me.
The top newsmakers go head-to-head with Michael Kinsley on the left and John Sununu on the right. Crossfire on CNN International, where great minds come together.
The Grand Masters of the international chess world play for millions. In Thailand, the stakes are more modest. But CNN's Tom Mantier reports that
for the first time.
Watching a chess tournament is not easy.
sitting in the top row of the stadium.
And finally, people who ride the rails underneath New York City are being exposed to many messages. Among them, messages in verse. We gave our reporter Jeannie Mose poetic license.
This is CNN International.
This is World Business Today with Grant Perry from the studios of the Financial Times in London.
Britain's coal industry shattered by massive layoffs and mine.
Look no further, cause ESPN.
Campaign for the vice presidential candidates up until Election Day, that is. This will be their only debate tonight on the campus in the University of, Georgia Tech, I should say, in Atlanta. Vice President Dan Quayle will square off against the two men who want his job, Democrat Al Gore and a Vietnam POW,
In North America, cool fall temperatures prevail.
Divertida para mim foi quando eu
CNN International.
Coming up Tuesday night in the United States, the baseball.
A giant of a baby food deal as a Swiss pharmaceuticals group takes its first step into Gerber products. How will this acquisition affect the baby food industry? On World Business Today, only on CNN International.
Y para cerrar esta colección, mostró un vestido de novia primaveral, único en su estilo. Así está el siempre extravagante mundo de la moda. Noel García, CNN.
Y resumiendo algunas de las noticias más importantes a esta hora. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis fue sepultada al lado de su primer esposo, el presidente John F. Kennedy, en el Cementerio Nacional de Arlington, cerca de la llama eterna que ella misma encendió hace 31 años durante el sepelio de Kennedy. Roman Herzog fue elegido presidente de Alemania luego de 3 rondas electorales en una jornada considerada como un desafío político contra el canciller Helmut Kohl. Herzog será el 7º presidente de Alemania y el primero elegido desde la reunificación en 1990. Herzog además era el candidato del Partido Socialdemócrata que lidera Kohl. El expresidente de Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, fue reelegido secretario general del Partido Sandinista. Al mismo tiempo, el partido excluyó de su liderazgo al moderado Sergio Ramírez.
Y así como está el mundo. Volvemos en 90 minutos con más información.
Gracias como siempre por habernos acompañado. Los esperamos hasta entonces.
International.
CNN International. It began with a simple idea. Keeping the world informed 24 hours a day.
I think this was an amazing sight.
Covering global business and world markets 7 days a week. Reporting the vast scope of international sport. Updating global weather conditions around the world. Turning the spotlight on entertainment, theater, and film.
Pacino puts all the power into Scent of a Woman.
The latest trends in fashion, design, and style.
The full collection.
In-depth reporting on today's health, environment, science, and technology.
Scientists with
live coverage of major global events from an international perspective.
Russia's crisis is unfolding.
And encouraging an exchange of ideas on television's only global talk program.
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
In a complex world, there's always CNN International, keeping the world informed. It's just that simple.
This is a presentation of CNN Business News.
From CNN London, this is World Business Today.
Good evening. Another week, another multi-billion-dollar transatlantic takeover. Swiss pharmaceutical and chemicals group Sandoz offering $3.7 billion cash for Michigan-based Gerber baby products. The deal values Gerber at $53 a share. That's a 53% premium over Friday's closing price on the New York Stock Exchange. Analysts say it's not cheap at 29 times Gerber's net 1993 earnings, but they say it's a good fit. Sandoz gets a major foothold in the U.S. market, taking over Gerber's 70% share of the baby food market. And that fits nicely with Sandoz's existing nutrition businesses. Gerber gets international know-how and financial muscle.
The problem Gerber faces is going internationally. That's an expensive process, and they're a relatively small company, and those types of...
We believe the long-term strategic benefit of the acquisition will be reflected in the market price of our publicly traded securities. Secondly, Sandoz will not have to add any debt to the balance sheet to finance the acquisition. Our liquidity reserve is higher than what we have to pay. You should note that this deal does not interfere with our ability to pursue strategic opportunities in, for example, pharmaceuticals.
Thank you, Rolf Schweitzer of Sandoz. And Sandoz shares didn't trade today in Switzerland because it was a holiday. Well, now let's see how shares of Gerber finished the day on Wall Street. Terry Keenan is at the New York Stock Exchange with all the market numbers and the rest of today's U.S. Business News headlines.
Well, Todd, Gerber shareholders have a lot to cheer today. The stock soared more than $15 a share to close at $50 1/4, just shy of the $53 a share offer. But the mood on Wall Street otherwise was decidedly downbeat. Blue chip stocks tumbled nearly 24 points to close at 37.42 and putting an end to a 7-session winning streak. The S&P 500 index also lost ground. It was down 1 3/4 points. A major sell-off in the bond market as well. The 30-year bond tumbling 1 12/32 in price. The yield back up to 7.43%. Inflation worries again the culprit as prices of cocoa, grain, and other commodities continue to soar.
The market's concerns today are a continuation of fears over inflation as commodity prices rise and oil prices included in that basket. There's a fear that higher commodity prices will lead to higher general inflation in the economy, which would require the Fed to tighten, moving off of its present stance of neutrality.
Just last week, the Federal Reserve hiked short-term interest rates for the 4th time this year. A mixed day for the U.S. dollar. It's down 1/3 of a pfennig against the German mark, but up slightly against the Japanese currency. The greenback drawing some strength from talk out of Washington. The Clinton administration is speaking positively about the current U.S.-Japan trade discussions. Officials from the two countries meeting for a 4th day in hopes of reopening formal trade talks. And once again, the Dow fell nearly 24 points today. That's the latest in U.S. business news. Now back to you, Todd.
British Airways continuing as the envy of the airline industry with a 62% increase in annual profits. For the year ending in March, pre-tax profits were £301 million, $454 million. Chairman Colin Marshall says the company slashed costs by £150 million and increased business at the high end of the market, business, first class, and Concorde. Marshall wants to reduce costs by another £150 million this year. London traders rewarding BA shares up 2.5 pence to 3.80 in a falling market. And we'll have an interview with BA Chairman Colin Marshall later in the program. While encouraging trade figures for Britain today, the visible trade deficit with countries outside the European Union fell in April to £566 million, almost $855 million. That's a fall of 17% on the March number. The numbers had virtually no effect on the British currency. Sterling ended largely unchanged against the Deutschmark. Analysts say the outlook for trade within the EU is more difficult to predict. Up next on World Business Today, big profit increases at British Airways, but its U.S. partner is ailing. BA Chairman Colin Marshall talks about the competition in the U.S. market after this.
He was 50 when it happened. In 3 months, he went from perfect vision to almost total blindness.
You know, you never appreciate the beauty in your life until you can't see it anymore. My wife, my family, my life. Everything I cared about just turned to darkness. And no one could tell me why.
In test after test, doctors were at a loss.
I can't find a thing.
There seemed to be no answers. Finally, a test was done using GE's revolutionary magnetic resonance imager. It lets doctors see things that ordinary tests and x-rays can't.
Look at this. Incredible.
The doctors discovered a tumor affecting his optic nerves, and he was treated. Within days, he got his vision back.
Hey, how about a smile?
And everything that came with it.
A new chapter has begun in Merrill Lynch's history in Asia. We are the first American securities firm invited to open an office in mainland China. Being there gives us a different perspective, which makes a difference for our clients. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
Como la Florida solo hay una, Hertz le ofrece muchas formas de verla.
Muchas formas. Muchas formas.
Recorra toda la Florida con Hertz. En un convertible deportivo, una minivan o un auto económico. Llame a su agente de viajes o a Hertz para tarifas a su alcance.
Muchas formas de verla.
As we mentioned earlier, British Airways pre-tax profits jumped 62% in the year ending in March. But its American partner, US Air, is heavily in the red. It lost nearly $200 million in the first quarter alone. BA, which holds 24% of US Air,
hours a day, 365 days a year, in over 120 countries around the world. You're never a stranger. The freedom to travel a little lighter, the confidence to deal with whatever's around the corner. The experienced traveler knows there's a single worldwide network that is always there for you, no matter where that may be. There is only one American Express.
The World Cup. Nothing else builds such excitement, such hope, camaraderie, and pride. But the World Cup also builds something else. A thirst. Budweiser, official beer of World Cup '94.
The National Organization for Women, ACLU, Senator Robert Dole.
In the eternal search for the truth, you're bound to raise some eyebrows, step on a few toes, butt heads.
The Young Republicans, the U.S. Congress.
So if we've inadvertently offended anyone along the way, Pat, Michael, and John would like to offer their most sincere apologies. Crossfire on CNN International. Lively talk, healthy debate.
The pace of German rate cuts looks sure to slow. Bundesbank President Hans Tietmeyer saying in Helsinki that no more rate cuts are... Who pays the bill after this?
United Nations International Year of the Family.
If you can't be there for all the excitement of global sports competition, on the field and around the track, stay on top of the action, the scores and the highlights with CNN International every hour round the clock. And remember, CNN International brings you live coverage of breaking news from around the world.
The Iraqi president appears determined.
Live updates from Europe and the global hotspots.
The residents of Sarajevo forced to dodge snipers.
News features on lifestyles worldwide. International business programs. Plus live reports from the world's financial capitals. In-depth global weather. And interviews with entertainers and experts on international issues.
I get asked in lots of interviews, who are you prepared not to like?
For sports, news, business, and weather, turn to the one source seen in over 200 countries and territories. CNN International, the world's news leader.
And finally tonight, it's been 8 years since the Chernobyl accident drew attention to a different nuclear threat from behind the Iron Curtain.
The blackmail by Kiev.
The government does see that it has a very strong card to play against the West by saying, look, we don't have the money, and sorry guys, we can't do anything until we have the money, so therefore we'll just let it go on like this, which is an unacceptable position for West and particularly for Europe.
The question of payments is expected to be a hot issue at July's G7 summit in Naples.
The challenge is a difficult one, balancing the cost of paying now versus dealing with another Chernobyl later. Kelly Arena, CNN Business News, London.
And that's all for this Monday, May 23rd edition of World Business Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Todd Benjamin. Good night from London.
This has been a presentation of CNN Business News.